Hello, this is Dr. Marshall Ross, Chief Scientific Officer of the Newly Institute. I'm here to bring to you the next episode of our medical optimization course. For today's course, please have a pen and paper for the exercise we'll be completing at the end. Today, we're talking about goal setting, controlling your own narrative, setting your compass for where you want to go. Goal setting. We know from literature in business, literature in science, medicine, there are ways you can set goals that are more effective than others. What we encourage you to follow is a fairly well-known goal-setting technique called SMART goals. SMART goals are a way to outline your goals and help you organize them. It can help you break your goal down into smaller, more manageable pieces, as well as more actionable items. So let's dive in. This is obviously an acronym. First is specific. So what do you want to accomplish? Being specific helps to incorporate the method into the goal, not just the outcome. This helps to define your pathway more clearly. So for example, people may say, my goal is to exercise more. And that's, a good overall arching kind of statement. That's a good, high level goal, but it's not very specific. Instead, try to say something like, I would like to walk for 30 minutes 3 times a week. Nail it down. Another example, I might like to watch less TV. Sure, this is probably a good goal. This is probably something, decreasing screen time is probably good for all of our mental health. But instead of saying, my goal is to watch less TV, say, I'm going to limit myself to 1 episode of Netflix per night. Or I'm going to read for 15 minutes instead of watching TV at least 4 nights a week. Other goals might be, I would like to feel better. I would like to have an improved mood. I would like to be less depressed. That is a good overarching goal. That is something that you want to get to, but it doesn't really help with this exercise. The point here is to set specific tasks that may help you get there. So reducing screen time, exercising more, those will probably improve your mood. And those are goals that you can actually attain because they're specific. So instead, try implementing a task that you know will improve your mood. Maybe it's talking to a friend at least once a day. Maybe it's engaging in a task you enjoy. But the more specific you can be, the better. The M in SMART, measurable. Being able to count your progress feels good. Measuring keeps you accountable and allows you to notice patterns and adjust your goals accordingly. So how are you going to measure your goal? You got to think about that. It's good if your goal is specific. If your goal is specific enough, you can probably measure the outcome. So for example, exercising more, you can't really measure it. Walking 30 minutes 3 times a week, you can track that. You can say, this week I walked twice for 35 minutes. You can actually track it. And the key is that you actually find somewhere to measure and track it. Maybe you have a piece of paper you put on your fridge. Maybe you track it in your phone. It doesn't matter, but you got to measure what you're doing in order to have an impact. There's this idea of the measurement effect. So we know if people measure their steps, they turn on the app on their phone that tells them how many steps they're taking. Even if they don't try to improve how many steps they take, if they're checking their step count, they actually end up walking more. That's the measurement effect. As soon as you start measuring something, you start doing a better job of it because, you unconsciously are like, oh, maybe I'll walk that extra block. Maybe I'll park a little further away. It may be conscious, it may be unconscious, but measuring it does induce change. So make sure your goals are measurable. We want your goal to be attainable. They should be challenging, but also reasonable to accomplish, given your resources and constraints. And the goals need to be within your control. So there's a balance. We say you want your goals to be roughly 70% attainable. If your goal's too easy, it's not really pushing you, driving you to do anything. If your goal's too hard and you never get there, then you feel like a failure. So you want to find that happy medium where maybe you achieve somewhere between 70 or 90% of your goals. Somewhere in that kind of range is a good place to be. So if it's too easy, like For example, I sometimes joke that, I'm going to set a goal to not speak a single word of German this month. And that's very easy for me because I never speak German. I don't know how to speak German. It's basically an irrelevant goal. On the other hand of the spectrum, if I said I was going to set out to climb Mount Everest this month, it's just not going to happen. I have kids at home. I have a job. My chances of completing that goal would be basically 0%. So you want to find that happy medium where you have to push yourself a bit to do it, but not so much that you can't attain it. The last part of this is your goals need to be within your control. So, for example, if your goal is to walk, we know that doing things with others, that social connection, also improves mood. So you might say, my goal is to walk with my friend Mark 3 times a week. The problem is, Mark may not be available. Mark may go on vacation. Mark may say no, and that's not really up to you. And so your goal should be within your control. Your goal could be, my goal is to walk 3 times a week and to ask a friend each time if they can join me. That's a good goal. You can do that. But it's not up to you if your friend says yes or no. So set goals that are attainable and they're in your control. Another example is you might set a goal, I want to get hired at job X. The problem is you don't decide who gets hired. The hiring committee does. You're just applying. So a better goal would be, I'm going to put forward a highly competitive application for job X. That's a goal you can attain. And then if you get hired or not, it's okay. You've still achieved your goal. So just to recap, we want our goals to be attainable, hard, but not that hard. So roughly 70 to 90% of our goals we should be able to accomplish. And we want our goals to be within our own control. Set goals where you can take actions to achieve them, and they're not dependent on the actions of someone else. Relevant. We want our goals to be relevant. So pick something that's important to you. Ask yourself, why am I setting this goal? Is it to make you feel better? Is it to reduce your anxiety? Is it to help you feel like you're more present? Will it help you be more organized? Whatever reason you're setting your goal is okay. But the goal should be relevant and it should help bring you towards a more ideal state of yourself. Make your goals relevant. Finally, we want our goals to be time-bound. The problem is we might have a goal, I'm going to exercise 3 times a week. That's a good goal. The problem is eventually you won't. There'll be some time where you're on vacation or, I don't know, maybe you're very busy or maybe you have an injury and that goal is no longer feasible. So much better to set a time constraint for the goal. So for example, I might say I'm going to walk 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week for the next 8 weeks. That's a goal you can accomplish. And at the end of the 8 weeks, you can check it off and you can determine if you accomplished your goal or not. If you have no endpoint, then there's really there's no way to fully achieve your goal because there's no time when you know if you've achieved it or not. The idea is the longer the time frame, the more likely you are to set a habit. So after you've accomplished this 8-week period, you've achieved your goal. After that point, hopefully you're in enough of a habit, you've changed your behavior enough that you can start walking without having this goal driving you to do it. Hopefully this goal has led to changes in your behavior that are long lasting. All right, so that's the idea is set time constraints on your goal. Maybe it's, going back to the applying for a job. Maybe your job is your overarching goal is I want to get a job. You say, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week for the next 2 weeks, working on my application, trying to get my resume perfect, get my references lined up. I'm going to put in that amount of time so that I can submit a highly competitive application for this job. So time-bound is the concept here. Set limits on it so that you can know at the end of that time frame if you've met your goal or not. And also know when it comes to time frames, there can be different time frames for different goals. I may have a goal for the day. I may have a goal for this month. I may have a goal for the next 2 years. It's okay. Just make sure that you actually pay attention to it and set that time frame. And it's actually good to have goals that occur over different time frames. There's different purposes to different goals, and different time frames can serve those purposes. So that's it. That is what SMART goals are. Now what I want you to do is set 3 of your own SMART goals. Take that paper and pen you have and do a little work. Put a little thought into it. What I want you to do is set 1 goal for the near future. So that's the next 2 to 5 days. I want you to set 1 goal for your next sort of 4 to 6 weeks. That would generally be the time frame of your treatment program. And then I want you to set 1 goal for the weeks to months after you complete your program. So maybe your goal for the next 2 to 5 days is I'm going to exercise twice. Maybe your goal for the program is to, I don't know. Well, you guys will get into it. Follow the SMART pattern. Write it down. Write SMART and set your 3 goals for those 3 time frames. What I'd like you to do is hit the pause button and go work on that right now. When you come back, we'll finish up. So hit the pause. Write 3 SMART goals for the 3 time frames right now. Go. All right, hopefully that went well for you. Hopefully you were able to get into enough detail, follow the SMART acronym, and set 3 goals. The final step, what I want you to do is put reminders in your phone. So if you use a calendar app or a reminders app, I want you to remind yourself when that goal is coming up. So for example, if you set a goal for the next 3 days, go 3 days from now and set a reminder to say, check in with yourself. Did I accomplish goal number 1? Do the same thing for the next 4 to 6 week goal, and for the longer term goal, sort of the next weeks to months after your program. So call it whatever 3-month goal. I want you to put a reminder in your calendar, and then when that day comes up, you'll pull up your calendar and you'll check in with yourself. Did I accomplish my goal? And you'll know because your goal is going to be specific and measurable, and you'll know if you attained it or not. All right, thanks guys. That is all for this episode. Look forward to seeing you at the next part of our medical optimization course.